Hi, my name is Bree Gray. I'm the Director of Communications and Press for the Allegheny Student Government. Will you please introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Rosslin Watson. I'm currently a first semester senior here at Allegheny College. I am a double major in community and justice studies and psychology with a minor in Black studies. Some of the things that I'm involved in on campus, I am a part of the Pi Phi Chapter of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. I'm also co-founder of a ladies' place, also Intercultural Advocate through the Idea Center, and I believe that's it for this semester. Yeah. But yeah, a little bit about myself. I'm from Pittsburgh, so it's like not too far from Meadville. Um, and something about myself, like an aspiration, I would say I really am passionate about like mental health, especially of people of color. I believe it's something that's not really talked about in especially Black communities. At least it wasn't talked about in my Black community. So one of my goals in life is to like bring awareness to that and also like make it a conversation, something that's not so taboo in the Black community. So.
And you kind of touched on it a little bit about what you're passionate about. Can you tell me a little bit about how you came to come to that passion? I know you talked a little bit about in your community where it was viewed as a taboo. How have you like tried to challenge that throughout your life and then also on campus too?
So how I came like to that, when I first came to Allegheny, I had this idea that I wanted to be a physician assistant, and then I realized real quick chemistry ain't for me, and I had to take it. So I was like, maybe that's not the route I need to go. And then I was actually talking to like one of my close friends and who actually attends here, and when I was talking to her, she was like, maybe you should like look into like psychology, like the way you talk, it like sounds like it would be something you're interested in. So then I took a psychology class and I really liked it. And then like through that, just doing like taking psychology classes, I really drew more towards like, this is stuff like I've never talked about within my community. For me personally, it's not stuff that's like really talked about within my household either. So I just kind of looked at a bunch of things that like my household and what I believe my community lacks, was the like conversations of like, how do you feel? Why do you feel this way? It was never that type of thing. So that's where I kind of got like more passionate about it and like wanting to get involved in it. Some of the things that I do to try to build awareness, the friend that I actually talked to that kind of was like, maybe you should look at psychology, Aaliyah Coleman. Me and her actually started a ladies' place together. And we basically created it because we felt like there were spaces on campus for people to talk, but we really wanted like a chill space for like just people who identify like as a female, or even if you don't, just come and just like really just be like, I had a rough day, like, or just be like, things are hard, and like for you to just get stuff off your chest and like have people who might be going through the same thing, or you don't know if someone is, or just have like that ally in someone else. So that's been kind of how like I've been building awareness of that. So.
And you mentioned a little bit about how like the campus community can like do better, talking about creating a ladies' place. Where do you see the college in terms of advocating for mental health awareness?
For me, coming from like a place where it wasn't really talked about, for me, Allegheny did a lot. And then also at the same time, when I just kind of was like, it was a lot for me at first. And then I was like, okay, like we can do more, especially when like COVID hit and everything like that. I feel like there were like, when COVID hit and then all the things over the summer, as far as like the killings of like Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and all the protests and things like that that happened afterwards, I feel like there was just a lot of emails sent out and not so much of like, how do you feel? Like, how does this genuinely make you feel? I feel like some spaces at Allegheny did provide that and other spaces did not. And I feel like as time went on, they're trying to get better with that, but
And I know that you're involved with some of the SILP organizations, or at least you were before. Can you talk a little bit about, and I'm going to focus on mental health because that's something you're very passionate about, how you guys raised awareness of mental health and also went a step further and also providing a space for students to come and say, well, this is what I'm feeling right now. Can we talk it out? Which is one of the things I noticed. We did a Black Girl Magic feature together. So stuff of that nature.
yeah, so I used to be involved with Black Girl Magic. I used to be co-president of that. some of the things that I would say, like, especially within that club, like what we try to do and what they continue to try to do is just like have like different conversations. I feel like the one conversation that we did have where I think like it wasn't really talked about on campus, at least I never seen within my years here, is like we had a sex talk. And so it was like, you really got people like out of their comfort zone, because sex is kind of like that conversation that people are like supposed to keep private. But then it's also like, if you keep it so private, how do we, you know, what you're supposed to do, or like what comes with that. So it's like, I'm just trying to get people out of their comfort zone and like be willing and open to have those type of conversations. So.
And I'm going to ask you a little question because I know you mentioned that you're a senior now. Looking back on your first year experience, what advice would you offer to yourself or even to a student, especially during COVID-19, that's trying to navigate a path through Allegheny College amidst COVID-19?
I would say for like anyone coming in, I would definitely advise, like, if you find something that you're interested in, trying to like get involved in that. Or even if you don't, trying to like start that. Like again, it's really easy to start something. If it's not here, it's not difficult at all. But I would definitely just advise like putting yourself out there, because especially now with COVID, it's so easy to get lost like on your computer, being cooped up in your room all day. But even though you do have to, even though most of the meetings that you will do through certain clubs will be online, it's also like just having that connection to be able to build with other people and meet people like you've never met before, and like that networking aspect of that. So I would advise just putting yourself out there more.
And what is something that you wish you knew when you were first year, something that, you know, you've kind of grown and reflected upon over the years?
I would say, ooh, something I wish I knew. Something I wish I knew. Mm-mm. Oh, okay. I wish I never knew, like, you don't have to have your whole life figured out. I think it's kind of like, for me, I'm like the type of person where I feel like I have to think about everything and my future has to be planned out to a T. And then especially coming out of Allegheny, like I had a set plan and then I came in and I got completely changed. And even now with me looking at grad schools, I'm like, I have this plan, but I'm kind of open to the fact that it's going to change. So I would just say, um, be open to change, and like, you don't have to have everything figured out.
And this is a more personal question, but who is your biggest inspiration, in life that has kind of led you to come to a lot of these decisions?
Um, I would say my family, in particular, like the women within my family. I feel like there's such like, I've grown into like, okay, with growing into myself, I've realized there's such a stigma on Black women. And I feel like the Black women within my life, they've really like shown me that like, you don't have to be what they say you are. So like, I feel like that's been like the biggest like inspiration in my life, is just knowing that like I can be whoever I want to be, because I've seen it be done by people, by the women in particular in my family. So.
And if you're comfortable, do you want to like talk about your experiences as a Black woman, and then also your experiences as a Black woman on campus too? So just the way those different experiences have kind of led you to become who you are today.
I would say more so like, with me being a Black woman, I feel like I try to put myself in like this mindset that like I have to be able to do it all. And I don't, honestly. But like that's just the mindset that I carry for myself, just because like it's like this stigma that Black women are like, they're so headstrong and all this other thing. So I'm like, I carry that on me. Like I have to be able to do it all, even though I don't have to. And then I feel like it also like carries on like the negative stigmas that are on this as well. Like if you catch an attitude or something like that, like you're seen as like an angry Black woman. I tend to like, when having conversations with people, especially within conflict, I tend to like hold myself back a little bit on some of the things that I would express, just because like I never want to give another person that leg up to just put that label on me, which is unfortunate that I do it and I shouldn't. But like at the same time, I have to be honest with myself that that's like a label that I'm going to receive if I do act a certain way. So I feel like it kind of like really, I try not to, but I realize like a lot, like I try to move a certain way because of the stuff that people may already assume about me.
And how have you kind of like challenged that throughout the years? Because we've had a couple conversations before, and you've talked a little bit about growing out of your shell and kind of becoming Rosslin Watson and kind of taking on a lot of the major events that happen at our school. You are in a lot of positions, you're doing a lot of stuff, and you're advocating on behalf of a lot of individuals during your time at the college. So like, how have you grown from kind of being nervous at the start to who you are today?
For me, I would say a lot of my nerves are still there. I try to hide them as much as possible, but a lot of them are still there. But like something that like I really like put on myself is that even though like I feel like I can be a very quiet person and just sit back and observe, but with that I also realized that like if somebody says something that like I know is completely wrong or I don't agree with, I don't just hold my tongue. Not saying like I'll pop off at them or anything, but like at the same time, I'd never want anyone to think that like I'm too scared to voice my opinion or that my voice doesn't matter. And that was something that like I really learned at Allegheny is that like I do have a voice and that it should be heard. It doesn't have to be heard all the time, but when I do have something to say, someone needs to listen to me.
And can you talk a little bit about some of your experiences over the past semester, where you plan to go after after your senior year? I know you talked a little bit about like looking at grad school, and just kind of give me a little bit of a feel for you.
So as far as the grad school aspect, well, let me start with this semester because we're here first. As far as this semester, I'm just kind of gonna keep like doing my thing. I feel like I keep trying to challenge myself while I'm here. This is like the most that I've ever been involved in like anything as far as like school. Like when I was in high school, I really didn't do the club thing. I was like, it was just school and sports, and that was it. So now it's kind of like, since coming to Allegheny, I like challenged myself to get more involved in like things that I was passionate about. So I'm like continue to do that. As far as like me going to grad school, since this is only my first semester senior year, I'm kind of just like feeling things out and looking at different schools, and hopefully I figure out where I want to go soon or like within like these few next weeks of having open houses. But man, that's about it for that one.
I feel that I was like thinking forward to is like what I wanted to do after school. So I was just curious on how you were like navigating that pathway. And then I have a question that's kind of like it ties back into a question I asked before, but who or what challenges you to be like the best version of yourself?
Um, I think like, okay, let me not say I think. I would say the individual who challenges me the most is myself. Because I feel like at the end of the day, the only person that can like force me to do anything is me, and the only person that can hinder me from doing anything is me. So I try not to put myself in a position where like I'm holding myself back too much from certain things, but also try not to put myself in a position where like I'm trying to do too much at one time. So I feel like I challenge myself the most just because like I don't know, it all kind of comes back on yourself. So it's like I have like I don't know how to explain it without getting really deep with it, but like yeah, I would just say like I challenge myself the most at the end of the day.
And what is something that you are most proud of, something that you've done throughout your life that you just kind of look back on and it's the first thing that you want to tell somebody, or maybe it isn't the first thing, but it's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of, what makes you proud?
Um, Something that makes me proud. Hmm. Something that makes me proud. Um, that's a hard question. Something that I would look back on and be proud of. I would say something I would look back. I'm so sorry. This is taking me forever to answer this question. Something I would look back on. Proud. Hmm. Okay. I would say it took me a while to get to this answer because I had to really think about stuff that I've done. But I would say most recently for me would be the summer of 2020. I actually ended up getting an internship at a nursing home that I was working at the time. And I was able to work with social services. And basically, I was able to go around and like talk to residents and things like that and like figure out what their needs were. And this is when COVID was like fresh. So nobody really knew what was going on. Nobody really knew what happened, like what was going to happen. So for me, I would just say it was something that I was proud of just because, like, at the time, because nobody knew so much about COVID, the residents were like forced to be in their rooms. And so, like, they didn't go outside at all. They couldn't leave their floors. And like, I felt so bad because, like, the workers come in and out every day. They get to go home, they get to go to stores, they get to do that. But like, the residents weren't allowed to do that. And so, for me, it was just really important to, like, it just made my day just being able to go and talk to a resident and be like, hey, like, you said you like this candy, I brought you this candy, or something simple like that. And like, it meant a lot to me to be able to, like, they just needed simple things to make them feel like it was going to be okay getting through this quarantine. Like, if they wanted to listen to music, I'd be like, okay, let me pull out my phone, what type of music do you want to listen to? Just little things like that. And just bringing awareness to like their mental health. Again, that was something like I really like focused on over the summer with them. So that was something that was like really touching to me, and just hearing all their different stories and like what they used to go through in life and stuff like that. So
And I'm going to ask you a little bit about like service, because you mentioned that you work a lot with the elderly, so you had an internship, and then you mentioned that you were there previously before. Is that something that you typically do? Like, is there some type of service that you prefer? I don't know extensively what type of volunteer activities you do.
um I would say like mainly I prefer to work with the youth, but at the same time I do like working with the elderly just because like they're so experienced and you learn so much about life through the elderly. Like I like that. I love that part. But um just certain things that I've done like community service through like the sorority that I'm involved in. It's been kind of difficult to do service now with COVID. Like you can only do so much, but like I try to give back as much as I can at least. So
And I'm going to ask you about your sorority. Can you tell me a little bit about why you chose to join? Isn't it Zeta, correct? Yes. Why you chose to join Zeta, and then also just kind of the environment that Zeta provides.
for me, the reason why I chose to do it, it was more so at first when like they first like were coming to campus and looking for like to start a chapter here. I was just interested because it was like a historically Black sorority. So I was like, PWI, what? Like I just like it was kind of like a touching thing to like get back to like history and roots for me. So that was like my first interest, and then like with doing more research and like things that they're involved in, it really made me like want to actually like join because it was something that it matched my personality basically. But I would say like the type of environment it provides for me, again, it provides like that kind of comfort, if it makes sense. Even though it is a diverse sorority, it is historically Black, and I feel like that, like for me, it's one of those things where like I like watching Black women just do something, like having 5 founders through 1920. You know, you're going through the Great Depression, many things going on then, and it was like for them to just come together and be like, we're going to make this sorority for Black females, and we're going to do this and do that. Like to me, that's very touching to me. So to be a part of that, it's just I don't know how to explain it. Like, it's just something that's important to me personally to be involved in, being a Black woman. So,
And can you talk a little bit about, and I know you mentioned it briefly, just talking about why it's so significant to you, but moreover, you know, why embracing the history and sharing the history with other people as well means so much, especially in the fact that we're in a predominantly white institution.
for me, it's like very important just because I feel like, especially like I always think back to like my high school history classes, and then like compared to like what I've learned here at Allegheny, taking certain classes, a lot of history was not talked about, or it was skipped over, or it was sugar coated. And so I feel like a lot of times that happens for in different schools for different people. And so for me, it's very important to like do history. I'm not a history person. It's not like my cup of tea personally, but like I enjoy like being able to look back on certain things and be like, oh, so this is how this was really done, and like this person wasn't giving me the full story then. So I feel like it's really important to really like really know like what really was up. So.
And I'm going to ask you a question. It's very subjective in nature. So one of the points of this question is kind of to take your point on what the term means, and then also use it to reflect on how the media has portrayed what Black excellence means. So what does it mean to you personally? And if you have like an example or something to help you with that, or also discussing how the media portrays what Black excellence is supposed to be. If that makes sense.
I wouldn't really say like I have a set definition for it, because like I feel like Black excellence is like can be portrayed and defined in so many ways. So for me, as of right now, I would say it's like being proud of like who you are and where you come from, and like being unapologetically Black, like just not, let me take that back because I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah, I would just define it as like those three things for me. As far as media, I think it would kind of align with what like my definition of it, like being proud of who you are, being unapologetic and things like that. I think for media though, we tend to like shine our light of Black excellence on just like celebrities and people who are like athletes or something like that. But I think like it's like way deeper than that. Like anybody can display Black excellence, but I feel like on media, in social media, that's like who we should tend to like put at the forefront of that. So.
And you talked a little bit about placing certain figures at like the forefront. Do you want to talk about, why it's so important to acknowledge that Black excellence exists over a different variety of, it doesn't matter what field you're in, it doesn't matter where you come from, or, how you rise to prominence. So if you're a celebrity, it doesn't matter if you're not a celebrity, that it still exists. And just kind of talk about why it's important to acknowledge the fact that Black excellence means so many different things to so many different people.
I would say it's just important to acknowledge it just because like, again, this just goes back to like, it's a part of history. Like certain things people do that goes down in history. And I feel like it's important to like, just mark that and like acknowledge that for what it is. Because again, like history gets twisted and things, people say things and they're not really what they are. So I feel like it's just important to like acknowledge all aspects of Black excellence, because for me, I just feel like there's not one set definition for it. Like it's displayed in so many different ways, like through art, through music, through poetry, whatever, cooking, like it can be displayed in so many different ways. So I feel like you can't just put a few in the front. Like there's just so much to go around of it that it's just like, you can't just focus on a few. Like there's a bunch of people who may do the same thing or do something different to display it. So.
And especially on our campus where we don't really acknowledge students in general for any type of like recognition aside from those who rise to certain statuses. Can you talk about why it's important to share students, especially Black students in a PWI, where they're overachieving, or maybe they are, reaching above and beyond and doing that like work that needs to go into correcting some of the systemic issues that we have in the institution? Why it's so important to offer recognition?
I believe it's important to offer recognition because like, it's just like certain things are just, even though it can be a small thing, I feel like people don't think about like the difficulties that come with it due to being like a person of color, being a Black person. Just simply like attending a PWI is like difficult for some people. Like you might not be used to, like you might come from an environment where everyone goes through the same thing as you, everyone looks like you, and so coming here, like you're just hit with something completely different. Everybody's of different like financial statuses, and then the majority are white students. So I feel like just giving that simple recognition of like, okay, you're here and you're doing what you're supposed to do, like that's like, let me like not pat you on the back, but like that's something to be proud of within itself. So I feel like it's important to acknowledge students and like students of color on all different levels, like even the ones who move up and they do clubs and like their names are like ones that like you really know, but I also feel like it's good to acknowledge them, but also you have to acknowledge the students that simply just go to class and do what they do just to get by at Allegheny. Like, that's something to be proud of as well.
And from your experience, at Allegheny College, what has been like the most challenging aspect to you? Since I know you mentioned going to a PWI kind of has its own unique challenges for somebody who maybe didn't come from a background where they were surrounded by a bunch of Caucasian individuals on a daily basis.
Wait, could you repeat the beginning of the question one more time?
Yeah, so you mentioned a little bit about their unique aspects to attending a PWI, especially for a person of color. Can you talk a little bit about your experiences, how you've come to, I know it's your senior year, so looking back over the past few years that you've had at Allegheny?
For me, it was kind of like, it was a little different for me because I've had the experience of going to an all Black school, and then I've also had the experience of going to like a majority white school. So for me, coming to Allegheny, it wasn't something new being put in this environment. I think for me, what was more so new for me was just like putting myself out there to like necessarily have a voice for other people who might not want to do it, or just taking reign on certain things and like joining clubs and things like that. That's been something that's like new for me. Yeah, I think that's all I want to say for that.
What advice would you offer to students who feel traditionally excluded, especially students of color who are coming to Allegheny for the first time? What would be something that you offer as a piece of advice, either like attending a PWI or even the greater Meadville area that we have?
A piece of advice I would give out, I think like for me personally, my first like thought coming to Allegheny, like I was like, okay, Meadville is really small. And then like when you look at it, you just think like it's a majority, well, it is majority white, but like you just think like it's an all white community. And like it really took for me like taking certain classes that I had, I was forced to get out in the Meadville community and like build those connections with the Black community in Meadville. So that was something that I was grateful for because it definitely shifted my mindset of being here. But I would say like try to like, even though it's kind of hard with COVID, all the rules on campus, but like if you do get the chance when we're let free, just try to like to go out into Meadville and just like see what it has to offer. I think Meadville has way more than what meets the eye of it. So that's something like I would definitely advise people to do, just like before you go, like it's easy to just judge and you don't know, but like go out and like try to do something. As far as Allegheny, I would say, again, just like put yourself out there, like do different things. So.
Perfect. I'm going to ask you a little bit about Black History Month now, just kind of like transferring into that as well. But what does Black History Month symbolize to you? What does the term mean to you? What does actively seeing so many student leaders being represented, so many Black prominent leaders being represented, what does that mean to you?
I have like two different scopes of it. So like one aspect of it for me is like, not to say Black History Month doesn't mean anything, but for me, it was just like in the household that I grew up in, like it was very, my family made sure that I did know like my Black history. Like I knew different like prominent leaders within Black history and knew like, this is how this really went, or like, this is who did this. So for me, it was always like, that was kind of something that was instilled in me. So it was like, not that Black History Month didn't matter, but I don't know how to word it without like it sounding like that, because I don't want to say that at all. But it was just kind of like, okay, every day like for me growing up was like Black History Month, because it was like I was constantly learning about different prominent figures within Black history. So it wasn't like every day just kind of felt like that for me. But as far as like what it means for me, I feel like it's like kind of like a month of like empowerment. It's ironic it's the shortest month of the year, just to throw that out there, but like I just feel like it kind of puts people in a position where like now you're going to see, if that makes sense. Like for people who don't know, it's like, okay, now you're gonna see, now like you're gonna acknowledge me. Not that that can't happen on like other days, but like during this month in particular, it's like, this is the month, like you're gonna see what it is, so.
And you talked a little bit about how every day for you technically was Black History Month, or at least what encompasses Black History Month. Why is that so important for students, especially at a PWI, to actively challenge what they know to be fact, to actively partake in, even cultural activities that we have on campus, or even just kind of step out of their comfort zone and just fully embrace somebody else's culture, especially someone that they're living and learning with?
I think it could become very easy for people to like lose themselves or like feel like diminish themselves or like feels like just have a different feeling about themselves and their culture because of like what a majority around them might be and like how they might not acknowledge it or how they may or whatever. So I feel like it's just important for us to like just to continue to like shed light and shed those experiences and give insight on different cultures, because for me it's like a beautiful thing to see other people's cultures. And so I'm like, I never want to, I've had that feeling, I'm sorry, this is all over the place, but I've had that feeling of like, not feeling like what I have or like how I grew up or like what I bring to the table isn't enough because it's not what the majority does. And I feel like we shouldn't downplay anyone else's experiences or culture, even if they are the minority. Like it's still as important as anybody else's.
And one of the things that I want to touch upon is, Black History Month is fantastic, but you dedicate 1 month to actually trying to actively learn new things. Why is that detrimental to like growth? If you're not actively trying beyond just 1 month to learn about prominent Black figures, people who aren't prominent, and just trying to actively challenge some of the institutionalized racism that we've seen, and it was unveiled over the summer as well. If you're not actively partaking in that, why is that detrimental to growth?
Simply because like with growth comes time. So I feel like if you just dedicate 1 month to like, okay, I'm gonna go all in, attend these meetings, do what I have to do to learn this, and then like after that, you just don't do anything else. It just becomes like, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, it's in one ear and it's literally out the next, because like with time, you tend to forget things and stuff like that. So I just feel like it's important to like, okay, if you start this month with trying to learn as much as you can, at least for like students at Allegheny, if you start this month with trying to learn as much as you can, attend meetings, like you can still attend meetings in March, in April, and then when we come back the next semester and start that process, like keep that going. Like I feel like it's just important to like put yourself in a situation where like you've never been before, you know what I mean? Or like put yourself out there to being open to learning different things or to learn about different cultures and things like that. So
And I'm going to ask a little bit about just kind of where you see yourself moving forward. And I know mental health is huge for you. So like, what are the next steps for you essentially? I know you advocate for mental health not only at our college, but you do so, you mentioned, with the elderly community, but like what is next for you essentially?
what is next for me? So like I had mentioned it earlier, like an aspiration of mine, but I really want to like, my goal in the end is like to have like open up my own practice within a Black community, and like I said earlier, start that conversation about mental health within Black communities and like breaking generational curses. That's like right now my goal. But as far as like what's next for me, I yeah, obviously school, but I just think I think just like continuing to like challenge myself and like to put myself in different situations. I try not to call myself an advocate because like sometimes I don't feel like I am, but some people might call me that. So I would say like continue to be an advocate or an ally for others. So yeah.
And then I kind of have, it's like a weird question. It's one of those ones that kind of like funnel into like a story. But just kind of collectively talking about a lot of your experiences in the short time that we've had together, because I think you said you had another meeting, so I want to make sure that I'm respectful of your time, but also just kind of taking everything that we learned moving forward about who you are as an individual and what you hope to do next and where you hope to go beyond Allegheny. Can you just tell me a little bit about you, something that, I don't want to say makes you proud, like in terms of that, but something that, you know, you've kind of grown as an individual, something that you took with you out of Allegheny that you hope to share with other individuals and you hope to inspire other individuals or something of that nature, if that makes sense.
Correction on the last answer. Okay, I didn't mean to say advocate. I meant to say activist for that one. I wouldn't call myself an activist, but some might. I am an advocate. I wouldn't call myself an activist, but some might. But for that question, something I would take away from Allegheny, obviously like the different experiences and stuff like that. But I think the biggest thing for me before coming here, I never really felt like my voice mattered. That really wasn't something that like, I just felt like even if like I was a quiet person, so I just felt like if I don't speak, it doesn't matter what I think, like people don't need to know that. And so I feel like at Allegheny it's definitely forced me to voice like how I feel, voice my opinion and things like that, especially with like certain professors that I've had at this school. Like they've pushed me to speak what I have to say in classes and put me in those, like, I would say at the time, awkward situations. But like, it's like very important to me now to like, just put myself in a situation where like my voice matters. And that's what I would like say to others. Cause I know what it feels like to be like an introvert and be real quiet and to yourself, but I would never want another person to have that feeling that I had of like, what I have to say doesn't matter, because it does.
I don't have any other questions, but I'm going to open the floor for you to just kind of like talk about anything. It's completely up to you. If you don't want to, that's fine. But just something about you, or anything that you would like people to know, because this is completely about you, the trivia.
I would just say, I don't really have much. I don't like talking about myself. So I would just say the only thing I would say is like, I'm a real chill, laid back person. Like if you need anything, I'm really like, you can like, people can talk to me easily. Like I feel like if you ever just, want to talk, you can come up to me and do that. Like it's all chill vibes with me. So I would say I can be a space for anybody who like wants to talk about anything that they want to talk about. If you feel comfortable, you could do that with me.
Alrighty. Thank you so much for taking time to meet with me, and then also to be willing to share so much about yourself and so much about your experiences. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you. And then also, excuse me, I'm like dying over here. But also, I wanted to take a moment and just acknowledge everything that you've done. And I want to say you're amazing, you're wonderful. And beyond that, you also are an inspiration to so many other individuals as well. And I wanted to take the moment to actually acknowledge that and state it publicly, because I think that's something that we need to start acknowledging beyond just ASG. It goes more beyond just us. It goes to the college. It goes beyond that as well. But stuff of that nature, steps that we need to start taking to recognize our student leaders, and just not even just our student leaders, but our students in general.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot to me. I appreciate that. And thank you for having me, like asking me to do this. It's pretty dope.
Thank you.